Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here, as always, my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Premier League, it's back. It's only right to do a preview for our first game, mate. But first of all, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. This is the hardest preview to do, isn't it? Because we've got like, especially when it's a newly promoted team, because we've got so little to go off. But we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best. You guys know that that won't stop us. We've done a little Premier League predictions where we're going to sort of predict how we think the league table is going to shape up, which is obviously a terrible idea. So you guys will get that soon. But we'll give you guys a little sneak preview and say that we've gone with Bournemouth to finish last, haven't we, mate? Both of us pretty unanimously, which I don't think, that's not too much of a surprise. So I don't mind telling you guys that. So keep an eye out for that one. But that surely should mean that we've got a good chance of getting a win, mate.
I hope so, mate. I hope so. I think that given the fact we've put them down as last, it means that they're absolutely going to do us over.
Yes, yeah.
Like, we've cursed ourselves already. And I don't like Bournemouth away first game of the season because it's giving 2015 vibes. And I'm not overly keen on that because obviously we got relegated. That was a year as well, yellow kit, that the rumoured away kit is black and yellow, isn't it? Or there's some sort of yellow incorporated. So hopefully we don't wear that third kit, or that third kit just doesn't exist. Before we get into it, guys, make sure you subscribe. Support on the channel has been mental. So many of you have seen the Carney Triple Make It episode. And we've had 2 Andy Gray episodes go out. You guys seem to be loving that. And yeah, things are picking up. So expect to see more of Dan and I in your lovely subscription boxes. But Dan, Bournemouth, kind of touched on it a bit in the preview, with the Premier League predictions, which will come tomorrow or whenever you guys are listening to it. They've struggled to bring players in, which is mainly why we have them down to finish dead last. In the short interim we had between recording these episodes, man, we went and grabbed a coffee. I'd seen some news that Bournemouth are actually in for Neto of Barcelona, the goalkeeper, which I think would be a good get. I think Mark Travers is a decent goalkeeper, but I think at this level, is he quite ready for that just yet? I'm not too sure. Neto is obviously somebody who has played in European Cup competitions. I believe he was at Sevilla. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's spent some time in Spain before joining Barcelona. I think that would be a decent signing if they could get that one done. There was also reports this morning, mate, as well, that they're looking to very ambitiously bring in Sensei, I think that's how you pronounce it, of Feyenoord. You guys would have seen him in the Europa Conference League final against Roma. That fit, again, it almost feels like they're shopping in a market which they're not able to really compete with, because I see Sensei go into pretty much any other club in the league apart from Bournemouth, because I have them as finishing down as dead last. And I guess that kind of brings an interesting debate, mate. Do you stay at a Feyenoord, who are, probably like third biggest club in Holland, obviously semi-frequently involved in European competitions, or do you go to the Premier League for the money and go and play for AFC Bournemouth?
You know what, mate? Both of those signings give me massive Fulham vibes. You remember when Fulham came up and they signed like Alphonse Areola, or like David Raya? They've had big name goalkeepers, and obviously they've had bigger name midfielders as well come and join them than Sensei in the past Fulham. And big names are great, but sometimes they're not what you need in a relegation dogfight. And to be honest with you, both of those signings would be upgrades, and both of them would start, and both of them would do all right. But I think they'd have to do something pretty spectacular for me to move them, like not just out of last, but out of the relegation zone. They'd have to blow us out of the water. I mean, honestly, like if you sign those two players, okay, I might move you to 19th. Like I'm not going to do it. Like I think they're pretty nailed on for relegation. But it'd be interesting to see who they do bring in, mate. But this opening game is like colossal for them. It's huge because they play us at home, and then they've got Man City away, Arsenal at home, Liverpool away, then Wolves at home. That is as welcome to the Premier League as it gets, mate. That is tough.
That feels so intentional.
Mate, it's tough, man. That is like, you sort of look at it and you think, wow. And they end the season with quite a difficult run as well. They actually have that run midway through the season, but in reverse. So they play Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, then Villa in a period between February and March. So it's weird how they're sort of like doubled up but backwards. This feels like a game where they're like, okay, we have to get something, even if it's a point out of this game. It does feel big because otherwise they could be going into September genuinely with nothing on the board. And we've seen so many times in recent periods where a good start can save you.
Yeah.
Like Brentford came up and they had a good start to the league. And all of a sudden it gets to Christmas and you're not even in the relegation conversation. And you can really relax in the second. Like you can afford to go 5 or 6 games without a win in the second half of the season, and you're not worrying, you're not panicking. Genuinely, I know it sounds like the most obvious thing to say in the world, but the more points you can get on the board early doors, I think it lends itself to a better season because the weight sort of comes off the shoulders a little bit. The club can sort of ease off, and you start to pick up more results actually in a sort of backwards way. And I don't think Bournemouth are going to do that, but it does go to it's needless to say that this game is a big one for them. I must confess, I'm sorry to anyone listening, I haven't watched much of Bournemouth in pre-season. But from what I see, I know. Sorry, plastic fan. From what I can see, it's not been great. So they've played 4 pre-season friendlies. They played Sheffield Wednesday, they played Braga, they played Bristol City, and they played Real Sociedad. Weird, but that's the beauty of pre-season. The only team they beat was Sheffield Wednesday. They beat them 2-1. They lost 2-1 to Braga. They lost to Bristol City, and they lost 2-1 at home to Real Sociedad. So it's not been great. Obviously I know you can't look too much into results in pre-season, but you don't want to go in losing throughout your 4 games, especially losing to likes of Bristol City, who you just left behind in the Championship. So yeah, as we were saying, sort of in the Premier League predictions, mate, neither of us are massively sold on Scott Parker. I like the guy, dresses well, speaks very well, but how good he is as a manager, I'm not sure. They're going to be relying pretty heavily on Dom Solanke and hoping he can make the step up to provide some goals. Sort of the jury's still out on whether he can finally make that long-awaited step up to the Premier League. But there's not too much about this Bournemouth team. I go, okay, yeah, like he's going to be a danger. He could be the man for them this season. Maybe Dom Solanke can, but it's a hell of a bridge to get out that Championship to the Premier League to keep on scoring at that clip. And do you think he can?
I don't know. I want this guy to succeed, right? You know,
Me too.
Under 19 World Cup winner. He was signed for a big fee from Bournemouth, and you have to say fair play Liverpool for getting as much money as he did out of him, because whilst he impressed at youth level, mate, we've seen so many talents do that and then fail to make that step up in the Premier League, at least. And you almost want him to succeed just to vindicate Bournemouth's decision to spend that much money on him, right? They've put a lot of money in this guy. He scored so many goals in the Championship. He did look very good last season. But I do worry, and I worry, you know, you said in the preview, mate, which people will see when we were speaking about Everton, the way that Lampard was already talking about the season and about relegation. That's the kind of, we've been getting that kind of mantra from Scott Parker in pre-season. He does sound very concerned. He's not been able to get the bodies in. Gary Cahill's been released. Obviously, he's quite old. He played quite a few games for them last season, but made sense to move him on. You look at the outgoers, they've had a fair few, but they've either been like young players who've been released or have gone significantly down to lower levels. You know, you're looking at some transfers to like Weymouth and teams like that. Beautiful part of the world, by the way. But Bournemouth, I just think they're going to they play a 4-2-3-1. I like the double pivot that they have of Lewis Cook and Jefferson Lerma. It's a midfield and a squad that was genuinely too good for the Championship. It was. And they did have their issues at times. Parker took over from Jason Tindall, didn't he? Who kind of had the job for about 6-7 games, didn't last too long. Eddie Howe's former assistant. But Parker's managed to galvanise that squad. He's got them promoted. you just can't help but feel like the lack of backing is what will really harm them. But and it's a difficult one because you don't want them to overspend on crap. You do have to seriously take a few looks. And I think if they could have got Cantwell on a permanent, I don't think that's a bad deal. They had him on loan. I don't think he necessarily lit it up, but his whole situation at Norwich, it seems like there may have been an opportunity to perhaps get this deal done permanently. You get him embedded. Something clearly happened at Norwich. There was clearly a big bust up with Farker when he was there. And that may have sort of seeped over to Dean because he just loaned him out straight away. But the 4-2-3 one's interesting, mate. I think they'll stick to their guns. They've come up, that it's a formation that they're used to playing. They've played this for a while. I don't see there being any drastic stylistic changes just yet. I don't see them going back 5 unless, things go terribly wrong. But it's going to be interesting to see how Villa deal with that sort of double pivot in the midfield of Cook and Lerman, mate, because I look at them and they are that's a Premier League midfield, mate. They're two players who I think comfortably get into at least bottom half teams in the Premier League, and were too good for the Championship. And I'm going to be interested to see how. I love Booba. I think Booba's been fantastic. I think he's a revelation, and we've seen how he likes to engage in one-on-one duels. And I think that's why he's so successful, because there aren't so many midfielders that necessarily do that now. It's a high-risk strategy, kind of stepping out and engaging with a Ryan Christie or whoever may be playing in that 10, whether it be Billing. We've seen sort of players an attacking midfielder at times last season as well. It's a risky strategy, but Booba backs himself to win them duels 99% of the time. I think this will ultimately be a good yardstick for where the midfield's at, because I think Bournemouth will come in. No, I think they'll just have a better understanding of where they're at in terms of the relationship on the pitch. Obviously, physically, it's going to be a bit of a step up for them, but it's not something that Lerma and Cook haven't done before. They've both played in the Premier League. I'm really interested to see how Villa line up in this game and how cautious Stevie G is, because, you're away from home. They are an inferior side, if we're being completely honest. But I think, for me, depending on how we set up this midfield, will totally dictate what we get out of this game.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. That midfield does feel like a key part of the pitch. There's some players I really like, as you said. I quite like Philip Billing, to be honest with you. There's a few players I like Jefferson Lerma. But we've got to get the better of that. I think the defence is the real weak point for them. That's the part that's concerning Scott Parker. Obviously, we saw the quotes where he came out and said that basically he thinks they're a weaker team than they were when they came up. So
take that what you will.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think some people have taken that out of context slightly.
Yeah. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because they've come up from the Championship. Man.
But you know what, mate? I was looking back through their recent, and this Bournemouth team has never been star-studded, right? But I was looking back, and in 2016-17, so the season after they came up, I believe, they finished 9th. I completely forgot this happened. They were almost in Europe. And they did it with this kind of squad, and so it's like, you can never really write off teams like this, because they obviously have a lot of team spirit, and a lot of the faces have transferred over and they've been here before. And like, as I said, Eddie Howe's team, I don't think they've got as good of a manager, but I don't want to come here and completely slam them, say like they're definitely going down. I think on paper, we've both put them 20th because they feel like the weakest team. They feel like they've got one of the weaker managers, but they will surprise a few people this season. They will get results here and there. And I think defensively they are lacking, and I think that's where they'll come to struggle this season. It's interesting that they are looking at like midfielders and stuff like that, maybe, because as we've both said, it doesn't really feel like that's the part of the team where they need to strengthen. But I think it's one of those where we can say pretty conclusively that we should win.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Villa fans expect to. I think we've beaten harder teams in pre-season. think it's fair to say. So this will be hopefully a nice level where we can come into and play well. It's important to see Bailey and the like have a good game. I'm really interested to see how we line up. I don't think we've got any injury worries or anything like that. Obviously, we'll get Gerard's presser. Maybe, but even by the time this is out, when will that be? Friday, Thursday?
Probably Thursday morning.
Yeah. So
is it Thursday today? It's Thursday today. So yeah, there should be. Yeah, there should be something today.
So it'd be interesting to see if we've got any injury worries, but not off the top of my head, I don't think we do. So hopefully we've got a fully fit squad to choose from. I'm really interested to see how we line up. Really interested to see who starts in that back line. Well, just who the centre back pairing is, to be honest with you. I'm excited to see who we play in midfield and then how many of those good attackers we can get into that front line, and whether it's Watkins or Ings, or even, God forbid, Watkins and Ings. So that lineup will be really interesting. I don't think it would necessarily be how we end the season. I've said that I think the likes of Mings, it wouldn't surprise me if he starts, but then he's slowly phased out through the year. But on the whole, I think it's going to be pretty telling. And yeah, I think we'll win, mate. And if you're not optimistic now, when are you optimistic? So I'm going to say that Villa are going to do it 3-0 or 1. I can't remember.
I'd take a 3-0. I would absolutely take a 3-0, mate. I think Leon Bailey, a man who is born again, he's ready. He's ready to tear this up. This is his time. He couldn't ask for a better first opponent. You look at their left back, Adam Smith, 31 years old. Leon Bailey will have this guy on toast. Don't you worry about it, guys. I'm just so excited for it to be back, mate. I can't wait to be back at Villa Park. I know you share the same sentiment. It's just a new season. This is the time where all of our hopes and dreams, they're alive, they're kicking. Give it till October, and we've lost a few games, and things are feeling awful, and we're coming on here just miserable, mate. But I'm buzzing for this one, mate. Can't do too much sort of tactical analysis of this one, guys. As you understand, it's the first game. There's not really too much to go off, but there's going to be plenty of content coming out for you guys. There'll be a review on this on the day. We've got Premier League predictions, which will come out tomorrow, which is the Friday, which is the first day of the Premier League. It's just content. And as well, I know I've said it in a podcast before, I'm going to be getting these on Spotify. I'm just waiting for some final graphics from my girlfriend who updated the thumbnails and stuff like that before I'm going to stick the stuff on Spotify. If you enjoy the thumbnails, shout out to Charlotte. If you're enjoying the audio quality, shout out to the different Charlotte, who's our audio editor.
Any other Charlottes want to get involved? Because apparently that's the only people we're capable of recruiting. So.
Maybe we need a host. We have a Charlotte host. I think that's the next logical step. But guys, that has been the first match preview. And guys, one thing, last season, I saw somebody, there's been a lot, I saw people say, people were asking for Villa podcast recommendations. Everybody on Twitter, everybody who said us, thank you. You guys are amazing. Really appreciate that. Somebody said that we weren't consistent though. And that's something that I'm going to have to disagree with. Because last season, we had a preview and we had a review on every damn game. Okay, we're not able to do these in the volume that we were before. We were doing transfer emails every bloody week, twice a week. It was nothing. We were students. We've got jobs. We've got lives. As much as I love Dan, I don't want to sit here and talk to him every day at Villa. We have other interests.
I don't pay your wages. If I paid you, then yeah, maybe.
Right, we're busy if people want to pay for the podcast, mate. Maybe if we set up a Patreon, then we can.
And the problem is, we both work in football and sport.
Yeah.
So it's all of the key, the weekends and everything like that, where obviously we do a lot of our recording, sort of pre and post match. It's just difficult. So we appreciate everyone that's been sticking with us.
But yeah, we do appreciate that. I know the numbers should be. The numbers have been great. I can't complain. You guys have been amazing. Your support is truly, from the bottom of our hearts, it's really appreciated. We're looking to kick on. If there's any brands out there, sponsorships, hit us up. Hopefully Elliot gets back to us about One Football. I never replied to the email. I feel really bad, but we know where the ground lies there.
Here's
to hoping. Yeah, guys, hopefully. The more sponsorships we get on board as well, it's in essence, the more you see us okay, because we are contractually obliged to record. Whereas at the moment, we're just morally obliged to sit here and speak to each other. But of course, we love doing it, guys. So make sure if you enjoyed, let us know by hitting a like. Comment your thoughts below on this game and subscribe for more. Up the Villa.